hello to you out there. And we hope that some of you that weren't able to make it in because of traffic are able to be with us this afternoon. Is there anyone here new? Okay. We have some guests that I have family members that are here. So some of you know some of my family members because I dragged them to all the things that I had to help us with activities. So you know, and then I have a new family member. So would you introduce yourself?
I'm Joan Helms, and I'm Carol's first cousin, and I'm from Philadelphia, Virginia.
And she had
I'm Carol's mom.
Oh, perfect.
Seal. Okay, I'm not sure if that was
Carol's
Carol's mom. Since people are being directed in those areas.
My name is Sandra Crumpy, and I'm Carol's sister.
We did it already. Oh, they did. Okay. Thank you. Excuse me. Okay. One thing that you saw in our announcement was that this month we are going to have a tribute to mothers as our program. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I'd like to do some check-ins first to see where people are. One thing we haven't done, I think we're going to add it to our monthly activities when we come in, is that we're going to find out who his birthday is in the month of May. No birthdays. I'm going to find out each month whose birthday in that month and who has an anniversary of that. And we'll give recognition to those individuals in the upcoming meetings. So, excuse me. Yes. Somebody lost that. So that's the only reason I took that phone call. You never can tell with someone who couldn't find their way. Okay. So how's this past year, past month, everything been for you? Good. Anything? It's so good to see you back, Jim.
Thank you.
Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you, Allie. Very good. I was just sharing with a few people that my cousin was coming down here on the train, and there was a truck on the railroad track, and the train hit the truck, and so their time was delayed getting here. So I thought that was something. So. What I'd like to do, and I'm looking at what I wanted to do in terms of my agenda, even though we started a little late, is to have you think about what you'd like to see from APPA. And I know that the road construction has affected a lot of people. I sent out a survey and said who could make it and who couldn't make it. Still, I think it has had some impact. So we had a very good turnout for the Carter Center. How many people were at the Carter Center? You want to share with the others a little bit about what you felt about that event? No. Do you want to?
It was very, I thought it was nice. I thought it was very nice. I'd never been there. So it was an introduction. We had the outdoor market so we could get the sandwich, and it was kind of different. It was a nice experience. The presentation, the video presentation was interesting.
Joe.
that lady.
Okay, thank you. That's
Yeah, I agree. All the video presentations and all that was good. The guy that portrayed Roosevelt, he was pretty awesome. One thing that I found surprising, to be honest with you, the doors to get in and out of that place were not handicap accessible. So if you were in a chair, it was almost impossible for you to get through the doorway without somebody helping you by holding the door. You would have thought that center of life,
They are working on
especially, yeah, that's what they said, but I'm like, I said that many years ago. Yeah, I'm surprised that building was built that way without that in mind. Because obviously a lot of money went into that place. It's a beautiful place. If you've never been, it's really easy to go.
the film about the last post-polio, the last polio poster child with Pam Henry. It's very interesting also. And I just had a picture here. She took a picture with our group, and it's going to be in the newsletter and on the website. But she actually went on to talk about her life and how she succeeded. And since most of us who are post or been to polio or had polio are type A, we're highly highly motivated people to show that you can do and what we can, how we can succeed. And so she was that type of person, and she ended up being the first anchorwoman in TV in Oklahoma. And so it's a very interesting story, and we'll see a little bit of that. So we're still soliciting volunteers and for our different activities that we need here, so we still need help. But for those of you that don't know, Pat Harris has agreed to be our membership admin. And so we will have more on that for you members. And we have a thank you note from Vicki. She went to the FODAC Roll, Run, and Race. Roll, thank you. This morning, and we gave her a donation of $100 from APPA to go to that for that event. There's Pat, just talking about you. And she said, I want to thank the board and everyone that sponsored me for the Kodak Run Walk and Roll. I appreciate all of you. Thank you. She said, she has this card. She said, it's to us. Okay. So, Pat, I just talked about joining us up here. I just said that you were going to be the new member advocate. I've asked Charlotte, Terry, and Nancy Trulock to work with you also. The new members contact people, and they're already engaged. She's contacting people, following up with people, and Nancy's doing some things too. So, upcoming events, Braves game. That's going to be a social event in the month of June. And so, if you haven't responded, is anybody here going? Braves game. We actually had 10 people respond that they were interested.
I didn't get it.
What did you didn't get that information? We're going to put it on the website also, and so a flyer is going out, and we'll be getting more information about it. But it was part of the notes on the page as well. Okay, so tribute to mothers, our program for today, and you may ask, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this tribute to mothers? And what happened to create the thought for this particular program today? I actually was at one of our meetings, and Dr. Strasser was at the meeting, and he was talking to Mom. And he asked her a question that I hadn't really thought about. And he said, how did you feel when you found out your child? that mean to you? I'm sorry. I sound loud to me, so thank you for telling me to speak up. So he asked, what did that feel like? And I turned around because I had my back to them, and I looked at him and I said, wow, that's something that I had not thought about. And then I began to share with some people in the group the thought of actually having a tribute to our moms, whether your mom is here today or not. How did she influence your life? So I asked you in the flyer that I sent out to think about those things. And I wanted to share some thoughts with you about that. And I noticed that when I went to 2 events, and one was Pam Henry, she spoke about how her mom influenced her in the film that was made about her. And then I went to a social, the DeKalb's story, and the lady who spoke there was Sheila Harper Road. And she was a guest speaker formerly with the CDC, and she talked about her mother's influence. And so I said, you know, I wonder how many other people, I wonder how many of us have thought about what impact our moms have made on us. I would just like to begin with sharing with you, for those of you, it's only 2 minutes left. Can I do the first one? Yes. I'd like to share with you what Pam Henry said. And I think that many of you may have asked that same question because I can remember my mom responding to that question for me. Okay? So,
and I just said, Mommy, and we both started crying. And that's when she really gave me the strength of her belief that it's not given to you as punishment. It is a random thing that happens on the planet Earth. People get diseases, and that we're just going to do everything we can with all the operations that I had to get better, all the swimming, to handle it beautifully. But there's no reason, there's no answer to why me. But don't feel like it was directed at me, because it was not. It was a chance occurrence. And we cried and hugged, and I never asked that question again. My question was answered.
It is the story of a life measured not in time, but in challenges transformed into triumphs. From a baby girl afflicted with a terrible disease to a symbol of hope for millions. A respected broadcast journalist who broke barriers and defied stereotypes. And a tireless advocate for those with physical disabilities.
so my question to you, starting with those of us who are survivors, what comes to mind for you when you think of your mom? Strong. Strength. Yes. Let's just go around the room. What comes to you?
I guess wisdom. It's something that I realized too. You know, I asked her why, You know what I mean? And she said, you know, everybody in life has crosses to bear. Yours just started early. And so I went a lot of years looking around at all the other people saying, well, when's it going to happen to them? Everybody seems to be doing just fine, thank you very much. But as I've gotten older and I have looked around a lot more and I see that everybody's got some kind of a cross to bear. And I find that there's a lot of people out there got way bigger crosses to carry than I ever did. An example of that happened to me while I was going up to 7 for some of our people. And it stopped at the 5th floor. And a guy in a wheelchair. One of the wheelchairs, when you blow in that thing, make you go forward.
Yes.
Well, I don't know how to operate one of those. I've never been in one. But you blow in it to go forward. But then when we got to the floor where you had to get off, you have to suck on it to make it go backwards. And it's a lot harder to suck on one of those things to make it go backwards. And I mentioned this, he was getting off, it's a lot harder to go backwards than forwards, isn't it? And he nodded his head. You know, you think you're having a bad day, and you can't find some of your people because they might be up on the 7th floor. Here's a guy having a blow and suck on a chair to be able to move around.
Yeah.
Kind of puts it in perspective for you, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does. What do you think about it?
Oh, my mom was, I don't remember, she went, when I actually was I mean, it was in me, and I had fevers, and there was a lot of pain, and she slept next to me, rubbing my butt all night for 2 weeks. You know, when I think back, well, why wasn't she afraid? And maybe she would get that virus. You know, why was she didn't think about that. She just was like there. Of course, then when they put me in the hospital, they couldn't be there, but she was always there. And that question, like, why me? You know, and how? She always used to say, I wish I could give you my legs.
Yes.
You know, because I was like a tween by then. And it was very difficult to be rejected by the kids around me, you know, because I was at that age where I wanted my favorite. And so it was, you know, it was hard for me to change from being just, and then going to that place where, you know, at PE at school, I would be locked in the back of the library. They put me in a room with maps. Let me tell you what capitals are around the world because I learned them all. No, I did, but it was my defense, you know. But then that kind of thing where she would just, you know, she always was like that. She always did everything without thinking of herself and always tried to make me feel, you know, she took me to other places that I didn't have to, you know. It's interesting when you say that because she's obviously a big influence. And,
Yeah.
and she before she passed away, when I was trying to make out a resume, I was still young. It's one of my first jobs. And I couldn't think of anything I'd ever done or anything. She made a list about this long. She saw everything for myself. And that's a very, yeah, you know, I can still have that. This is a little scrap of paper. And it's really cool. Yeah, she saw that. And so that made, you know, her feedback to me, whether it was verbal or not. And my mother was very severely hearing impaired her whole life. Is it very severely hearing impaired? She had a great big giant hearing aid about that big that she used to, and if she turned it off, you were out of luck. And she couldn't hear a thing. And she had had that her whole life. So the cross understood, you know. So she's a very special lady when I think about it. Yeah, good question.
When you hear the stories, other things come to mind that you've done that.
Yeah.
I know they do for me, and that has happened for me. I'm going to try to talk up more myself and ask all of you to talk up also because some of us have soft voices, and so I'll ask you to do that.
I was very young, so and I believe I was almost 2 years old. And I can remember I was quarantined I was in the hospital and I couldn't be with my mother or my parents. I believe she told me 2 months.
How many were quarantined?
And
And I found some who were not, and that was interesting to me to find out some people.
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
Okay.
yeah, and like I said, I was very young. I do remember being, when I was in the hospital, at this big window, and the fair, Ferris wheel and all that. And I guess she said that that's what kept me, I don't know, falling apart. I don't know. I was 2 years old, and I do remember the water therapy during that time. And it's about it, you know. Just, my mother had to make a decision. I believe I was like 15 when I was having problems walking on my heel, and I guess they wanted to do surgery. They wanted to just cut part of the heel and see if it would extend or something. She chose not to. And I understand, and I've read articles where some of the people that have had that surgery has had difficulties.
So a lot of the surgery and the things that they did were experimental because they didn't know. And so I had that same experience, you know, where they kind of moved part of my ankle, and when that didn't work, they said, well, we can try something else. But my mother said, what do you want to do, Carol? Remember that. And so I said, I don't want to have any more surgery. And she went, that's it. What do you think of?
Well, I was 3.5 or 4, and I was quarantined for 9 months. My mom told me that, but I don't remember a lot of that. And I do remember some, but I thought I was there to play. I just remember these kids, but I don't remember what happened. And then I remember when I was like, oh, good, more big up, longer, hoping to apply me. I'm going to be there for me.
Yes. We'll skip over you, Adam, and I'm going to go to Joe.
Well, my mom didn't know anything about polio, and the day that I would say the day we knew that we had contracted it, we were living on a farm, and we were at my grandmother's house, and there was a wagon that horses pulled, and the back of the wagon, we had taken out that little slat that holds everything in, and so we were jumping off of the wagon onto a car seat. And my mother had come to the door, stop jumping on that car seat, you're gonna hurt yourself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Back in the house, I think it was probably about 7 or 8 of us that had cousins and everything. And as soon as she went back in the house, we went back to jumping off the wagon onto the car seat. So that night, terrible fever, my brother and I. No one else in the group had any fever, they didn't catch polio or nothing, and we were all out there playing together. So when I was looking at this film, and someone said that it's a random thing, and it just, you're not chosen, but it just happens to some people. So that's certainly the case with me. My brother and I had it at the same time, but none of the other children had it. Now, Mom would always do whatever the doctor instructed her to do. And now that I look back on it, she was devastated. To us, we had there were 3 boys, and the brother that was the youngest, he was a baby. Yeah. And so it just happened to us. Now, we went swimming every day. We moved from Arkansas, where we lived on a farm in California. And there we lived in Stockton. We were, as I look back on it, very, very lucky to be brought up to California at that time. Now, it's crime-ridden now, it's an older city. But at that time, they really did prepare the children in the city to take over the city when they got old enough. To show you an example of that, every year, the students from the 3 high schools would take over all of the city government positions. If you were on the student council, you got a shot at that. And so you were with that person. I was with a judge all day. And they would tell you about their field and so forth. In my case, he let me set up right beside him, a little raised thing where the sat. And Stockton was like that, in that they really, really looked after the young people. No matter who you were, you got a shot.
We can use some of that here.
Yeah, you got a
We
shot.
can really use some of that here.
So I guess that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Nice story, similar to his. I'm 16. I grew up on fire.
16? Okay.
Grew up on fire, and I raised cattle. There were 6 kids in it. I was oldest, only 3. Boy, also had 4. So he got it celebrated before I knew I had it when I was on the bar. They carried cars, and I got this very short dog, high feet. I was calling the doctor. Yep, he's got one or 2.
Wow.
My mother was very hard working.
It's, I hear that strength in all of our mothers, that story that helps them. Vicki?
I don't remember a whole lot, but I do remember I was in grading initially, and they would bring people sent flowers and cards with money in it and things like that. It all had been destroyed, money and all, and they would burn it.
That's right.
Why they brought it in, I don't know, but they did. But, I remember Mother telling me that, and I was in the back brace till I was 17. My stepdaddy made a table and had the stump part cut out, and my arm was in a sling, so that I would go right up to the table. My arm would be like that, and he fixed it where I could color because it was my right arm.
I think our families made accommodations
Yeah.
for us in a lot of senses, So that just, one of the things they did to try to make things easier for us to get around that. That is so true.
But I met one Powder Springs doctors at Emory till I was 17. I had it when I was 5. So I would go there and they would put me in the pool there and do the hot packs and all that.
How many had it at 1 year old or younger?
10 months.
You were home
10 months.
10 months. 2 years old. 2 years. 2 years. That was 26. 26 months. 2 years. 2 years. 3 years old. 4 years old. 5 years old. 6, 7, 8, 7 is me. Teenagers.
I did not.
You were 9.
I was not.
You were 9. And you were 16. The differences. And so I can imagine how many are only children? One brother or sister? You have 2? 2? One brother. I have a brother and a sister. 3? 4?
Next time I had mine, I was the youngest, because the baby of 4.
You're the baby of 4. Okay, so you're 5 in your family. You had 6 in your family. So one of the things that in some cases you have parents that are juggling other children or helping us to interact with other children. So I heard someone say that talked about their mother, but I also heard someone say something about their grandmother too. Yeah, and the role that the grandmother played, or other women in your life. It could be an aunt, it could be a surrogate mother, you know, it could be a neighbor that was really close, but they kind of adopt you, take you in, and do that kind of thing too. So let me let you say how was your mother influenced in your life? That's what we were just kind of talking about here. Okay. We are really not talking high and loud enough, and so I'm trying to do that.
Well, first of all, thank you. You may not know me, I'm Gloria Mills. And of course, I have missed a number of the meetings simply because of working, because I continue to work full time and have been working on those weekends. With this being one of the weekends being off, even though I apologize and having arrived here later. Though this is a marvelous way, and especially on weekends, that you have to adjust to those still adjustment of weekends from the weekdays. Yet nevertheless, as I mentioned earlier, restricted with polio at the age of 26 months old. And of course, my mother, it's been a very strong, supportive, loving mother that she was. The early part of what I know is based on what she shared with me. Like another aunt, even though she was living away at the time, though was home for that summer. She said that I was a very active child, even at that young age, and had played around with the other children the night before, the evening before. Yet the next morning, unlike the pattern that my mother had always known, that I would get out of bed early, which I did not that morning. And so she was concerned, and she came to the bed and talked to me. And then I was asking how I was feeling and all, and so she put her arms around me to lift me up to stand in the bed, and my right side, and she looked down, and I was standing on tiptoes. And so she immediately knew something that had happened, and that was like I had polio. And so then they rushed me to, at that time, the hospital, which was segregated, and in my hometown. And they did various tests, and of course, like spinal tap, said that I was given that. And I was there for a short period of time. And in Jacksonville, Florida, there was during that time, as I said, the colored hospital that was for people. And I was transferred there. And the blessing is that even though it was segregated, there were excellent teams of doctors, which of course they tended to be white. However, and with that continuous as I under and at that time, which some of you may be familiar with, I have learned, it was like the Crippled Children's Commission, and that provided services to those of us with polio and other similar types of illnesses, especially those that dealt with needed more like orthopedic types of health provided. And over the years until I was about 16 years old, I was back and forth to Brewster Hospital. And as I said, getting excellent care because I underwent several surgeries because at the age of about 8 years old, I broke my hip. And so that necessitated back and forth, back and forth. However, and again, my mother being who she was, taught me patience and always said to me that even when I would plan summers to do something, and then our visiting nurse would come and say, well, Maria needs to go to the hospital or check up. And then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, now so-and-so has planned something for us this summer. And I had a feeling they were going to keep me. Usually they would. And so after they would examine me and everything, and the doctors would say to me, my mother, sometimes my father, like the rest of these would bring it over and say, well, usually would talk to my mother even to say that I needed to stay. And I cried for a while and said, oh, well, I was thinking about enjoying myself, whatever the activities was would be. And she would again encourage me to say, well, I'm going to do all the now. I'm going to be there. You can do all whatever else you want to do. And so then I get to the pediatric ward, and then I see some of my friends from previous lives. And then we get together, we have our wheelchair races and had the disc foods and all these other activities. We had our teacher who come in during the week for a few bit for excellent hours, and that's how we continue with our education. And then when I was about 16 years old in Gainesville, Florida, which is my hometown, there was then the Shands Medical Hospital. So then I was transferred there, and then I continued about the next 2 years through high school with an orthopedic doctor because I was in another surgery to correct something, which I'm thankful for that. And so, of course, I went through my wearing the braces and those, as they say, those brogan shoes. However, they were kept polished shoes. Oh, yes. And my father and my brothers would always keep them nicely shined for me. And then during as junior high, then they transferred me to the San Loxwoods. Wearing those until I could then begin to wear some of the regular shoes. Yet, of all that I've experienced, with that came some limitations. However, I chose then, as I've chosen now, not to allow someone else to put limitations on me. Their limitations. I know what I'm capable of doing, and for that which I'm unable to do, the Creator has blessed me to create ways by which I can still be able to fulfill the things that I need to do. And so I think, even though some people might say things happen to you because you're going to grow up being a evil person and all these other kinds of things. I do not believe that. I believe that we are here for a purpose to show others that in spite of what we have had to endure and still endure, them become better people because of who we are, by our showing love to them, embracing and beyond being tolerant, yet being respectful and acknowledging them for who they are and for the gifts that they bring, because we are all born with our innate gifts. We've learned various skills. We have different talents. And when we use them for the betterment beyond ourselves, then we all play a role in making this a better world.
I can just say amen to that. You know, and that's, you know, right, I gave you the excerpt from Pam, and you heard the stories around here. But I'd like you to hear stories and the tributes that some of our members that couldn't be here, and they videotaped a message to. So I'm going to go to the first one. Okay. So we're going to attempt to bring this message to you from our members. A couple of them had an opportunity to share their tribute to their moms, and I wanted to share that with you. And so you. The question was, how did your mom influence you? How did your mother influence you? What do you remember? Or the person that, you know, brought you the key mother figure in your life? What was that?
The key figure in my life was my mom. I was 5.5 years old, and she was early 20s. And so it was, and I was the oldest child. It was just like heartbreaking to her. But I thought, when the doctor said that I would never walk, I thought he meant never walk until like Christmas came or my birthday came or something like that. And so she never let me, you know what, I kept saying, when is never over with? I mean, never was never over. That makes sense. Okay. And so she just never told me there wasn't anything that I couldn't do. I used to practice standing in high heel shoes, a little pair of high heel shoes, little bitty heels like this, because I thought that's what it meant to be grown, that I would be a lady like her now, and with those great big church hats and everything like that, and just practice. So I had to practice. I would practice. She'd come in the kitchen, she said, and I started practicing standing in high heels. And she just let it go like that, never said, well, you know you can't do that. And it was just always one of those things. And it was a big deal for me when we would go from, I lived in Illinois at the time, we would go from our town to Oak Park, Illinois to get my legs measured for new braces. And they would put those black and white saddle shoes on there, or the brown and white saddle shoes. I just hated those things so bad. And when they got really, because they were the only ones I had to wear. And when they got really, really bad, they should polish them up with white polish. We go to church, and I look at them like, oh, they're so ugly, they're still ugly. And one time I got new shoes on there, and I sat out in the driveway and just scuffed them up. I didn't want anybody to know I had new shoes, and they just looked bad like that. She would go somewhere and cry sometimes. I don't understand why. But it was one of those things that happened to me to deal with as a daughter. While I was in the hospital, they had moved from a little trailer that we lived in to a 2-story house, and the only bathroom was upstairs. And Daddy would take me upstairs to the bathroom, then he'd leave me. And I go, okay, well, you coming back? No, I ain't coming back. Get down here. To get downstairs, I ended up scooting a lot until I was able to walk on, on the braces and stuff. But it was the main thing was that they would never tell me there wasn't anything I could do. And to this day, my dad, Christmas before last, I went and got him. And I called my sister in Jacksonville, Florida. I said, you want to do a road trip? She said, yeah. I said, let's go get Daddy, bring him down here to see my daughter in the nursing home. She said, okay. She don't have any more sense than I do.
And Dad kept saying, no, y'all don't come. It's bad if you don't come. I said, well, I'm coming to get y'all. You got to sit in the backseat and ride. And we got in. We finally agreed, and we got into Wisconsin. It started to snow. And the next morning, he just said, we're only 200 miles from Minneapolis. Take me back. I said, I'm not taking you back. Yes, you are. So he just sat in the back seat and thought I was really going to turn around and go back. And he looked up and he said, I guess she's going on. And after that, you know, it was like we had a good time going down the highway, but he kept remembering and he kept bringing it back. He said, Via do anything that she wanted to do. She just don't listen to people. So I'm stuck. That's just like he is.
Oh, okay. We have recognized this lady. That's Rita, and she wants to share her tribute to her mom with you.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to be with you. I would like to contribute. So the following is a tribute to my mother, who is deceased. I was always there when I needed her. I remember her primarily making certain that I ate the proper foods, including vegetables. She worked hard as a farmer's wife and then worked 2 jobs to finance my college education. The jobs were at Birdseye, a food factory, and E.F. Johnson, a radio factory. She was appointed to an appeals board for county government and was constantly watching rules and regulations of county government. Mother was a strong woman, as were my maternal and paternal grandmothers. She was a good role model for community work in addition to following the 10 Commandments. All 3 women contributed to my strength and ability to handle all phases of life. Mother had insisted that I quit my job and enjoy my last phase of life. I enjoy quilting, weaving, and helping people who need physical and psychological help. So I did eventually quit my job. Mother was always helping someone in need. This includes my sister, friends, and her grandsons. Mother asked, who will help me when I need help? Of course, that person was me. As a tribute to Mother, I paid for a meal for Mother's Day to the seniors who uses the Meals on Wheels program in the town where Mother lived. I have felt this program is important for older people who sometimes do not eat well, and at the same time remember both Mother and Dad in this small rural town in Minnesota. Lastly, I am grateful to Dad that he married Mother and that we are all together as a family.
So, my question, after looking and hearing what Rita had to say in her message, is how did your mother, what kinds of things did your mother do for herself that would strengthen her? Do you understand my question? What was her life like? What kinds of things did she do to encourage herself, to with her friends, or how she had church or her support group? That makes sense. What did your mom do to help her? And I was just thinking, one of the things that my mother became very involved in watching diets today. And so she volunteered, she was always involved with the community, with our neighbors. Also. So they would go out and have, time where they get together with their friends and do that too, to kind of those friends that she could talk to as well. And so, Rita said her mom had her life too. And was that true of you, or were you aware of other things that your mom did that kind of kept them grounded?
Well, I would say personally, as I had mentioned a little earlier, making my comments, that my mother was a very strong woman, very concerned not only with our own family, because I come from a large family in terms of, even though a number of them now generationally have passed on to join their ancestors. So when you mention about the March of Dimes, then I know that as you talk with us in respect for President Franklin Roosevelt and the March of Dimes movement right now, I'm very cognizant of that and he's sincere in terms of, again, what they were able to and even now contribute to so many of us. But she saved those times with the President's head on them, and later would show them to us and then distribute them in many ways. She was very outgoing in terms of even a surrogate mother to the children of almost every family within our community. And she was always there to help other mothers in the rearing of their children and the role mom. Our home was like that, what is called labeled as that safe haven home in the community, so that other children, families of other children, would naturally gravitate toward our home. And then their parents rarely would leave their children with my mother. When she declared to them, made a mandate to them that you will not take your children or take our children out of this community to someplace else, and because the main road for our community passed by our home, then she told them to leave the children there with her, and even their parents would be late coming home. To get their children, we would have already bathed them, fed them, so whatever, put them to bed. And then when the parents came, then my mother was sent to say, well, we've done all of these children. We would wake them up and disturb their sleep. We simply bring or changing clothes the next morning. And that's who it was, so that on her making her transition, the church was packed, and generations of children had all types of very, you have to think about it now, such warm and loving comments to make about her, simply because she was that figure in their lives. And so even beyond that, with the family members as well, she was very much involved. And so some of that is still part of, quite a bit of that is still with so many of us who live that and wanted to live by that type of example.
Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't get a chance to say anything when you first started.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
my mother was kind of young when she had me, so she really did not know what to do concerning polio, but then she had my grandmother. I remember also being quarantined. We lived in a small town in North Carolina, and I remember another girl and myself were the only ones in the neighborhood that got polio, and we got it as a result of taking the vaccine. My grandmother and great-grandmother made a salve, massage my legs, and my mother was the one that always said, "You want to walk to me," because when I first had it, I couldn't walk. And so she would stand me up and we would take small steps. And when I think of her, you said strength, that's my mother. And I watched her go from cleaning houses, working in furniture factories, all the way up to being a deputy sheriff. So she is a retired deputy sheriff today. And one of the things she loves to do is golf. She has her friends and she loves to play golf. But she encouraged me, my grandmother encouraged me, and nobody felt sorry for me. Nobody said, you will not dress out, you will not play basketball, you will not play tennis. I did it all. So I contribute that to them who never felt sorry for me, always encouraged me, and so here I am today. And I'm not pictures.
Oh, great, thank you. I love my pictures.
What year did you go?
59. I was 4 years old.
You said you got a vaccine.
Yeah.
vaccine.
That kind of vaccine.
I don't remember, I just remember my family saying that I was one of the ones that got as a result of the vaccine.
And there are a number of people, that's probably a whole nother topic area for people who got the vaccine and are not a polio survivor.
Yeah, other labs had a vaccine.
Yeah, if that's a vaccine.
Yes, they gave it to Cutter Lab. There's actually.
Oh, bad match. Oh, okay.
At times were hard because it was segregated. We had a black hospital, KDB hospital, and that's why I remember being quarantined. You couldn't go around any of the other children. So, yeah, it was rough.
Yes.
And working out, doing exercises in the water, having 2 surgeries like you were talking about on your ankle.
Yes.
And then later taking the bone from the thigh and trying to lift it in this one. I got a picture of my braids in those shoes you were talking about, the Oxford, lift it up.
Yes.
I got it.
And you know, I'm sure as you're making adjustments, that's really what you've done, whichever link in affected legs, your arms, whatever, just making those adjustments. But our mothers made adjustments too, and our siblings made adjustments too. And parents, if you there are stories in that also in terms of, you know, how we survive. Others, how did your, can we just go through and just say really kind of quickly, how did your mom take care of herself? What did she do?
Seems to me she didn't. Seems to me that all she cared about was everybody else. Cheering her all up.
That was,
You know, it's like, I've got time to worry about me. I've got, you know, sisters and Joey and my husband to take care of and all that. I don't have time for me. She always worked. She always did all the housework. You know, my sisters got a little older. They were supposed to help, you know, with the housework on Saturday morning. And all I remember out of that was more fighting about you're not helping than work getting done. So, you know,
we fought too. My sister can attest to that.
The other sister's supposed to do that and so forth and so on. And it turned out. Me being the boy of the family, I was out with Dad cutting grass and working on cars and stuff, so I was kind of out of that whole process. Yeah, I don't remember my mom taking any time for herself. I think that was a problem.
She did occasionally, but it was rare. When she would get dressed up. She and my father would go out, but when they're going out, was going to a neighbor's house, and the neighbors gathered, you know, and that kind of thing. So I remember that very, very clearly when that would happen. What did your moms do to take care of themselves?
Mine was a lot like Joe's. I don't remember her doing very much for herself. I remember it was such a big event once, and this weird, but she, that her sister, my aunt, bought her a new dress to go somewhere. And to me, that was like the biggest thing, because I never remember her own new dress. It was always for us. I forget where she's going, but I remember what a big deal. We made her try it on and turn around, and we had never seen her like that, because that wasn't what she did. She took care of us first. It's always like very selfless. Yeah.
Let's hear what another one of our members said. This is
Good morning. My name is Sheila Harper. Share with you some of the things that my mother did to influence me, certainly in my life.
Sheila Harper is She is the person who spoke to the DeKalb Historical Society, polio victim who ended up at CDC. She's very interested. And she said she was involved with this group quite some years ago when it first started. And I found that she was a neighbor. And she lives in the neighborhood next to mine. And so we've been talking, and I said, Sheila, would you mind? She wanted to come to this meeting, able to. So she sent a tribute for you to hear about her mom. She didn't do the video, she did a poster because she is actually doing a writing parts for a book right now too. So she talked about her mom in that program that we done out to. Thank you.
And all through my polio days. I remember my mother almost every day of my life now, from 20 years. She was a slender, strong, determined Southern woman with long black hair, always helping others, friends and neighbors. And when the march for the polio drive took place every year, she certainly was part of that. But she did a very important thing. At the age of 4 or so, I started going with my mother. We got a kit from the March of Dimes, and in it was a badge. And on it read, "Tonight, I am a mother. Please give to the March of Dimes." We pinned on our badges and went out to collect. A full envelope, and we were very proud. So maybe that's where the George Bailey part of me came from, following in my mother's footsteps and trying to help people. I know I assessed every job that I ever applied for, thinking whether or not it would fulfill me and would I be helping others. That led me to a 25-year career at CDC. Now, admittedly, I was an administrative person and ancillary to all those great doctors there, but I still felt that I was giving because polio and I had been linked together for life. This happened because right after all this wonderful collecting for 3 or 4 years, I became a statistic in the March of Dimes data. I was the girl next door now in braces and a wheelchair. It was a tough fight. He was there beside me all the way. My father became the chairman of the March of Dimes for our county, DeKalb County. And I had the fight of my life. I had this never give up attitude, and that's probably the determination that I got from my mother. We had to stick at things until the job was done, until our goal was met. So I did that. Bit by bit, day by day, I was able to walk again and move to that career at CDC. So my mother taught me that first you have to give of yourself. You have to look after yourself and never give up on your dreams, your goals, and the things that are going to move you forward in life. Mother's Day to you all out there. I know you all have fond memories of your mothers. I hope some of your mothers are with you. But if they're gone, think back on the ways that they influenced you and how they made us all better people. Thanks.
Very nice. All of these messages are so inspiring. And to hear what our mothers meant to us, I think this was the right thing to do for the month of May. And for us to recognize and think about our mothers and begin to pay attention. When I asked the people to do this, they told me little resistance at first. And then they said, I'm so glad I went through this process because I hadn't really taken the time to just think about my mother in that way. Or share it, just consciously. I mean, you kind of unconsciously. Gee, I'm so glad my mom is here, But we don't want to take them for granted. And so I'm wondering what kind of role do you play in your mother's life or have you played in your mother's life? most moms pass.
Oh, we're not that young a group, Carol.
Yeah.
We're not that young a group.
I know, and my mom can attest to that too. And so, oh, did you play? Or are you playing now? Do you feel like you play?
Well, listening to everyone talk, I finally decided that my mother was a strong person. And I think that's what she gave me because of what I've been going through the last couple of years. And people tell me that I'm strong. So I think that's what she gave me, her strength to go on. And she was always helping people too. Yes.
My mother will be here week after next December week. So we're like friends now instead of mom and daughter. We're like best buds. So my mother loves to go over. She goes there. And if I'm not feeling up to it, she'll say, "Oh, I never stayed in the house this long." So I've already sat down to plan out what we're going to do because I know that's what she does. And she decided. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's great. My mom too is a person that likes to be on the go. If you have seen here, she's been at the meetings. She'll work and help set up and do things also, but she's always been that way out in the community. So that's why I said, what other things did your mom have besides you being their project, which happens sometimes too? What other things you notice or see? Did your roles reverse as you got older? As they got older? Did you find yourself in that area? How many help take care of their moms since they were young? We have that. It's our opportunity to give back. We have, just as you walk in.
You ready for that one?
What would you like to say? What would you like to say to your mom now if she is not here that you didn't get a chance to say when she was?
If you all when you say thank you, but my mom died young. She was 39.
She was 39.
I was 22.
One of the things when we talk about our moms, it is very touching. That's why I put a little heart on the poster instead of heart and love, because that's what goes on. I mean, when we talk about our moms, it's a feeling thing. It's not just a head expression. It's what's in our heart. And so that's one of the things that I find and that I hear, even as we're talking about movies around the table.
But since you mentioned that my mother has such a wonderful sense of humor. So among the things I would say to her now is that, oh, I've become so much like you. Well, all of us as siblings, we're both our parents. Have such slightly different tones of humor, and each of us, their children, have some of all those parts. So, in addition to, especially on the brother's humor, also the sayings that they would make a presence, or as they're talking to someone and you as a child, you're tuning in, because I was the type, I was always listening in on these adult conversations around the corner. And so now there are times when certain things may be occurring, whether in the workplace or otherwise. And immediately one of my mother's sayings would come to my mind, and it inadvertently, with my comments, I would say it out loud, and it would be so humorous to some of the others there, the students, and some others are saying, what did she say? What did she say? Someone would say, what is going on? So then you have to get on that train, that train later. So that's one of the things that I would say that I appreciate that, because even though she had her times of seriousness, when it was something that she needed to say, she would do so in a kind way, and she was through with it. And so I realized that I've inherited a number of those characteristics from her, and that is what I believe helps me to navigate through this life. Because as some would have the saying, we have to live for each day. I've begun to embrace and we must live for each moment, because we have to utilize that, acknowledge it to the best, and move forward. And that's the way she lived her life. So it's all about not only herself, but her family. And I would not say that I would have been considered as a project, because it was all embracing within all her siblings. So she never put any limitations on me, and certainly not my sisters and brothers, because they all felt that in no way was I going to get that special treatment. No, and I'm glad that's the way it was, because I was taught to be independent. Another one of her strong traits, and like right now, they're both. I was saying that somebody says that they were too independent or too strong, something like that. I get that on a daily basis, because as much as what I can do myself, I do that. And yet when it comes time that I need assistance, then I can say in a gracious, humble way, and be accepted.
Thank you. Comments? What would you tell your mother?
I don't know. And the reason is because she had Alzheimer's. We talked a whole lot, because she could only remember things that happened long ago. And she would always tell us stories about what happened when she was a little girl. So when we talked, and she was real old, and I was watching her die, I would remind her about some of those stories she told us, and she remembered, but she couldn't remember anything much that happened just a few days ago. By the way, I'll share something with you too, not about mother. I find myself complaining much too often about why did I have this polio. And so I belong to a group, I don't guess you call it a group, people say a BSF, Bible Study Fellowship. And so they study the Bible, but it's not a denominational thing. So this guy who sat beside me a lot, he said, Jim, I thought of something the other day. He says, you know one of the reasons why you probably had polio? You didn't have to go to Vietnam. And that was the truth, because I went to volunteer to go into service. The doctor wouldn't let me, and I was raising all kind of hate for him because I wanted to get in. He said, one of these days you're gonna thank me for this poor ass. And there was a whole bunch of days that I did thank him.
Yeah.
A lot of people died over it.
Yes, they went through some things, to be honest, which is most of our. Oh, yeah. Vicki, tell your mom.
Just thank you.
That, yes, I understand. Did you tell your mom?
I would say thank you, but maybe we should turn the question around. What would she tell you if you could hear her today?
I told you so. I
told you so.
You can still hear me now?
That's good, that's good.
I think if she would come, if I could hear her today, she would tell me, let me cook in the kitchen with her because I had, the long braces on, and if something fell on the floor, there's no stopping me if I would fall. So she never, but I had to read recipes. So I had to read the recipe to make Jell-O every Saturday. I'm like, can't you remember this thing I told her last time? And, so that was a way to keep me busy. And she taught me how to iron. She taught me how to sew. I think she wanted me to be something like a secretary, something, a nice, safe job. It didn't work out that way. So I think she said, well, you did good, you did good. And about the kids, I can hear her laughing now. And she always had a nice laugh. But she laughed, she said, Dee, what you gonna do with them now? What you gonna do with those little girls now? Talking about my granddaughters and stuff. So I think that's what she would say.
Great. David, what would you tell your mom?
I would say just thank you.
What would you tell your mom? I told you so.
Besides the obvious thank you, I would have told her to take more time for herself. I have actually done the job of caregiver, and one of the first things that people that know that job will tell you is that while you're doing that job, you've got to be very careful to take care of yourself, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you really can't be of any use to anyone else. And she really should have done more of that for herself there.
I'm just thinking about, this brings up millions of memories, all this stuff that we're talking about. In 1954, I had in 1955. In 1955, my brother, who was 4 years old, was sitting next to me. We were watching black and white TV with Mighty Mouse Saturday morning, and his head got real big and he got meningitis. Okay, and it was bacterial meningitis. Back then, people didn't usually live through that. And he lost his ability pretty much to hear. And I remember my mom walking for 2 miles to the bus stop every day, taking him to deaf and blind school. So back then they taught them to read lips. And right now, somehow he has arrived back. Living at my house right now because he's got cancer. And it's very hard for a person with cancer that has as severe a hearing loss as he has to go through this medical system. It's hard enough for me to go through that, to deal with everything. Agreed to be his caregiver. And she, that part about being selfless and loving him enough to do that, but not giving up. Boy, that's the hardest part as a caregiver, because he just had massive 13-hour surgery right now. He's been through chemo radiation. He's done a lot of really hard things, but if somehow she taught us that, well, that's just what you do. You do what the next thing is that you have to do. And so I've kind of been like it's like a translator, because he will leave a doctor's visit, which is at least 3 or 4 a week, and therapy and stuff. The big say, because he never really, even though he's trying to read their lips, if you just remember being in the doctor's office, they walk around, now they're on the computers while we're talking to you and everything, so they don't face him. Read their lips. I can't imagine what it would be like to not have the ability to hear, and he's even got sort of blind in one eye, so it's just difficult. But he's a very wonderful, wonderful man. I mean, he just accepts, and he's adapted. You can say how many, just like we adapted, he's adapted. He's just, he kind of likes to be in the quiet of not. That's another world. We don't ever get to visit that. We don't, and he can live in that so easily. I just wondered if he was just in the hospital for 29 days and TV. He just reads it. The closed caption. He doesn't have to hear it.
Yes.
And then I realized now on your phone you can get closed captioning. I didn't know that you can. The whole world's opened up for me. That you can buy an app, not buy it, just get an app. And call, like the person calling you, you can see what they're saying on the screen of your phone. Who knew? I mean, the whole world is just changing, and I'm learning from him. But she passed it down to me, to be able to do that, and yet to try to balance it. Boy, that's the hardest part, is to try to what, which is why I'm here today, because I've skipped a lot of things.
I think one of the things also is that, from what you bring up, is that they learn from us too.
Mm-hmm.
Like you learn from your brother things that you didn't know. People learn from us things that they didn't know and didn't hear about. Post-Polio, what's that? That's what I said when I was figuring out what was going on. Thank goodness for APPA, But those kinds of things happen too. So thank you for sharing that too.
I would just say thank you. You're the best. In fact,
and I say thank you right now to my mom, who can hear me and see me. Yeah. And know that, and even if you're here in support of anyone that is here, family, I'm sure that you have your moms, those who are supportive of you, that same thank you, aunts, grandmothers, mothers, sisters, and there are a lot of dads serving as moms in those roles today too. That the wife and the mother is the past that or something has happened, and they've taken on the role of raising children. And to those, then we say thank you for being there in those roles also. We have another message from someone you will recognize.
Hi, everybody. I can't be at the meeting, so Carol's asked me to record a little bit for you, and I am doing this in the comfort of my art studio. So I'm going to be out of town during the meeting, so just put a video recording some thoughts that I have about how my mom influenced me when I was growing up. And of course, I think that she was a great mom, and I have, good memories of her, everything that she did for me. She was always there. She was there for, of course, all the regular stuff, doctor's appointments, physical therapy, surgery when I was at Warm Springs, brace shop, all that stuff. And she did it. She was raising 4 kids. It wasn't just me. I had 2 brothers and a sister. So she had a lot of juggling to do. And I always, I think that she and my dad, both made the right decisions for me, and I've always appreciated that. One thing that I do want to is, rather than hold me back when I was growing up, she was very good about not saying no. She always tried to let me figure out what I could and couldn't do. And that doesn't mean I never hurt myself, because I did. But she let me do that. I guess she figured I was going to have to figure it out one way or the other. And she didn't want to cover. And she didn't want to hold me back. And I think that helped to make me an independent person and face things and tackle things as I got older that I might have been a little bit wary about if she had been more protective. So that was really a big thing for her. And also, I was always proud of her because she didn't spend all her time on the kids. She was she always maintained her own interests. She was an golfer, she played bridge, she had an active social life. And both my parents did. And I always thought that was a good thing for her, was what that she did that. So, at any rate, the rest of the meeting goes well, and I hope that I will get to hear a little bit more about some other other experiences with being raised and how their moms influenced you. I'll see you next month.
So it's really good to hear these messages. My mom had when she raised us, my brother and sister and myself, she was juggling a full level as many of our moms were. And she wanted my life to be as normal as possible. And you talked about your mom rubbing your legs and that kind of thing. I can remember my mom rubbing my legs and just helping get that flow, because our legs get cold. Our legs get cold. And so I was always cold and fat. My leg is cold now, And so I remember as a child that she did that, and she would always rub it, and it was soothing and very, very helpful to me as a child. But she was very, I know my brother and sister coped with some things too, adjusting. My mom having to give more attention to me in some cases, but I always felt like we were equal siblings. We were all important to my mother and my father, and we knew we were special. So it was good to see her not only work with us, but work out in the community, to the March of Dimes. They actually were posted in the paper one time where they had marched and collected dimes. They had 300 and something dollars in dimes. And that was a big deal, man, to do this. I was a doctor in the hospital at the University of Pittsburgh. And so there's still an institute there for him. And so she got a chance to meet him, which I thought was kind of cool. I want to ask you to do something really special right now in this last few minutes. And this is for everyone to do this. I'm passing out a piece of paper and I'd like everybody to take this. Just take a stories here today. This is a really good way to
Yeah, everyone.
Huh?
For everyone.
Everyone. Do you have pens? Who needs a pen? We're going to take on some recognition this afternoon. What I'd like you to do is write your mother's name on this piece of paper.
First and last.
Just a person.
Everybody writes mom, she's got your hand.
Don't write mom. Write your mother's name, please. I'll go mom. I want you to think for a second. I'm going to share with you. And I would like you describing how you feel and an acronym. So, you're going to write your mother's name. My mother's first name begins with an L. For Lucille. So what L words can you think about that describe your mother? Or if it's Mary, what M words can you think about? So I want you to take your mother's name and write an acronym for your mother's name. If your mother's name is May, it'll be really short. If your mother's name is going to be long. But think about how would you want to recognize your mom in this tribute. That's it's a bit, you don't have everybody doing the same thing. Even the kids. Take your mom's name and write an acronym. Acronym for my mom's name for your mom's name. This is your message to your mom. And then however you like to use her name to give her your message. doing? I'd like you to keep these messages as your message to your mom. What did she say? So does anyone want to share your acronym with your mom?
Yes, my mom's name is Shirley.
Okay.
So for S, I said spiritual, H, happy, I, intuitive, R, realist, L, loving, E, energetic, Y, even though she'll be 79 this year, and heart.
All right. Thank you. Yes.
My name is Orange. My mother's name is Lisa. L for love, U for unity, C for courage, U for yourself. You're gladness, you're the joy.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, I will. My mother's name was May, and I've used two words for some of them.
That's fine.
For M is my memorable, for A is amazing, E is energy example. My mother was full of life, and she was a tremendous example and a tremendous mother.
That's true. That is true. I can say number one thing. Others. What's your mom's name? Roseanne. Okay.
Necessary.
Yeah. Anybody else? Thank you, Mom.
His name is Lucy. And I could think of one thing, love. She loved us like
Yes. Okay.
all the time.
Okay.
And the people around her, her
Great.
grandchildren.
Okay. Just want to give everyone. Okay, that's it. You ready? Appreciate your love for my mother, for her. I was at her 87th birthday. Life that you gave us and your understanding way. It says, known to family and friends, courage and caring are your banners. Mother's intuition and your smile always heals and makes. Loving us unconditionally was never in question. Loving the legacy that all of you do, with all you do and say. You're an exceptional mother and blessed from above. And this was today. We appreciate you. And that was all. Okay. So these are easy to put on the card notes or something that you have to set in your room or make a card for you to honor your mom and to think about your mom. So I wanted to share that with you. Wish I had posters, because I had some other things to share with you also. But your legacies. We have 2 minutes. Can I get one more? 2 more? Anything to say? Right here.
Well, my mother's name is Allie, and I probably would have spent more time on this class as to have look up different words.
I know that's okay.
I said active, loving, loner, intelligent, and educator. Because she's been an educator for so many years.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Also, my mother's name is Raina.
Raina. Okay.
And she was reliable, eager. Why? I didn't write the why. Necessary and amazing.
Okay, that's fine. That's okay. That's okay. How did this feel for you going through this the process?
It felt wonderful to be able to sit down and just, not just think about, but to visualize and to write down what you felt about your mother. Great experience.
How'd you feel about that?
I thought it was fantastic to hear the stories about their mothers are important in life, and if you're a person with a disability, it is most important that you have that strong mother who is encouraging, because many people who are disabled are put down and they need to be lifted up, and the mothers always do that.
And that was the common thread I heard through here, is the strength of all of our mothers and the collective man. So I want to thank you for indulging me today and participating and really making this particular activity, I think, one that hopefully that you found helpful and encouraging. And are there any remarks? Because I know there's.
Do you meet for the summer? Or do you meet for the summer?
Do we meet for the summer? We'll meet in June, and then we have the month of July off. I know that Cheryl is looking at a social activity for us to get together to go to or something like that during the month, but not no program meeting. And then we'll meet again in August. And actually in August, Sheila Harpole, who we heard on here, may be our speaker to come and talk. So I'd like you to hear she's really excellent. So, and we're thinking about, find out how you feel about this too, but we're thinking about maybe Warm Springs. A lot of people have talked about maybe wanting to go to Warm Springs or have never been there. And some people who've been there are saying we'd like to go back. So we're looking at some things for the rest of the year. So please let me know, send me a note, the kinds of things that you'd like to do or be active in. And we will pass that on to the people who are working in this program. So if you need any more brochures, I have some brochures with me today. And I just want to thank everybody for